Hey everyone, this is Mr. Byer. We're going to be talking about the Middle Ages. First, let's cover the South Carolina state standards. The indicator. Compare the political systems within world civilizations. Students should be able to explain the feudal systems of Europe, including how it functioned and its impact on the political development of Europe. Essential question. Why do people form governments? Guiding questions. How did feudalism develop in Europe? I want you to watch this clip from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Progress. Dennis, there's some lovely filth down here. Oh, how'd you do?
How do you do, good lady? I am Arthur, King of the Britons. Whose castle is that?
King of the who?
The Britons.
Who are the Britons?
Well, we all are. We are all Britons. And I am your king.
I didn't know we had a king. I thought we were an autonomous collective.
You're fooling yourself. We're living in a dictatorship, a self-perpetuating autocracy in which the working classes...
Oh, there you go, bringing class into it again.
Well, that's what it's all about. If only people would
Please,
realize...
please, good people. I am in haste. Who lives in that castle?
No one lives there.
Then who is your lord?
We don't have a lord.
What?
I told you, we're an anarcho-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week.
Yes.
But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting
Yes, I see.
by a simple majority in the case of purely internal affairs,
Be quiet.
but by a two-thirds majority in the case of
Be
more
quiet. I order you to be quiet.
Order, who does he think he is?
I am your king.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
You don't vote for kings.
Well, how'd you become king then?
A lot just happened here. Ignoring the superfluous characterization of medieval folk, try to explain what is occurring in this comedy. What are these individuals arguing about? Why might government be important to society? Give it a try. Well, a government can be used to protect rights, promote rule of law, ensure public safety, and allow society to function properly. Covering the government in medieval Europe is a bit convoluted. The continent is ethnically diverse, and the timeline we're focusing on stretches from the fall of Western Rome to the fall of Eastern Rome or the Byzantine Empire. To simplify the subject, we are going to focus on a phenomenon called feudalism. So, what exactly is feudalism? According to Oxford's dictionary, feudalism was a dominant social system in medieval Europe, in which nobility held lands from the crown in exchange for military service, and vassals were in turn tenants of the nobles, while the peasants or serfs were obliged to live on their lord's land and give him respect, labor, and a share of the produce in exchange for military protection. So why might society find the need to follow feudalism? Ever since the Roman Empire fell, the Dark Ages overcame Europe. Chaos and terror swept across the land, and there was no centralized force to protect the people. Well-off individuals such as royal families and noblemen offered peasants protection from waves of invaders that pillaged Europe's terrain. Every kingdom across Europe were potential pickings from outsiders that seeked loot and expansion. Muslims from North Africa raided France and Italy. Fierce nomads called the Magyars from Hungary invaded eastern parts of France and Italy. Vikings launched raids from their homeland in Scandinavia. Scandinavia had little farmland, so the Vikings had to depend on sea for food and trade. They became skilled sailors and made boats that navigated through rough Atlantic waters and shallow rivers. Starting in the 700s, the Vikings left their crowded homeland and carried out raids across Europe's coast. The word Viking comes from their word raiders. The Vikings raided churches and villages, and they burned whatever they could not steal. Vikings were fierce but also brave. They traveled all the way to Greenland, and many historians claim they were the first Europeans to set foot on North America, not Christopher Columbus. But I digress. Feudalism was based on ties of loyalty and duty among members of nobility. Nobles were both lords and vassals. A vassal was a lower ranking noble who served a lord. In return, the lord protected the vassal. A vassal helped his lord in battle in exchange for property, known as a fief. Many lower ranking vassals were known as knights. Knights were armed warriors who fought on horseback, though initially they fought mostly on foot. Knights followed a code of chivalry. These rules stated that a knight was to be brave and obey his lord. A knight was also required to respect women, honor the church, and help people. Knights were trained for war by fighting one another in tournaments or special contests. The most popular event was jousting. Jousting was when two knights on horseback were trying to knock off each other with lances. The castle was the center of the estate. Every castle had a moat or placed on a steep-sided hill. In the basement, they kept tools and food. On the ground floor, it was used for kitchens and stables. Above those rooms was the great hall where the Lord would hold court for guests to visit.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
The vast number of Europeans were peasants living and working on manors. There was two groups of peasants, freemen and serfs. A freeman paid the nobles for the right to farm land only on their own land and had rights under law. However, most peasants were serfs. Serfs and their descendants were tied to the manor and they could not own property. Serfs worked long hours in the field and did many services for the nobles. They spent 3 days of the week working on nobles' land and then the rest of the week working on their own. It was not easy for serfs to gain their freedom. During times of leisure, peasant life centered around the church and the village green. Peasants took a break from work and went to church on Sunday and had Catholic feast days as well. The rise of trade in cities created a new middle class in medieval Europe as well. People in the middle class were merchants, bankers, and artisans. Eventually, medieval towns began to set up their own governments. However, only males were considered citizens. Under the feudal system, towns were often part of territory belonging to the noble. As a result, nobles tried to control the town affairs of townspeople. However, they disliked owing taxes and services to nobles. They wanted freedom to make their own laws. Trade also encouraged townspeople to produce many types of products. People organized guilds or business groups. Each craft had its own guild. So based on what you just watched, how did feudalism develop in Europe? And how did it function?